Here we go. It's time for another sprint zone. This one's for 4/1/2025, and we are in the warm-up portion of the ride, heading up County Road 5. The group is looking more or less orderly. We have the two riders coming off the left side, drifting and finding their way back to the back. And we do this because going 3 wide is better than 4 wide, and having the right-hand side had to move over, and we find out this works pretty well. Everything looks pretty good here. See the rider in the helmet coming, behind me, finding his slot, as there was a lot of shelter on the left-hand side, as we had a pretty brisk wind coming out of the northeast. And so the riders on the right are feeling a little bit of the extra wattage being burned. Things are looking pretty good here, and looking at my wattage, not that high, and it's no doubt due to the fact that I am on the sheltered side. Coming into the melee zone, starting to cool down a little bit, letting things in the legs kind of settle before we hit it hard again. The group's looking pretty good for the most part. I see the couple of riders in front of me, a little bit of half wheeling there. Not too happy about that because it's slightly dangerous. And there's the correction, more or less. But I'll say this, and I'll keep saying this over and over and over again. Like when you're in a pace line, double pace line, and people don't have their handlebars lined up, the rider who has the ability to slot up and get closer should not. He should drop back, or she should drop back and stay right next to the person, handlebar to handlebar, kind of as a correction, because you get too many people that think they want to be a handlebar ahead of the other one. And if you notice how the pros ride handlebar to handlebar, and they're not 2 freaking nanometers from the wheel in front of them. Nice and orderly, and I wish we could get back to that. Or at least in theory, that's what I think should happen. Practicum, maybe not so much, but I'll keep hammering this. Maybe someone will hear this and they'll start to take note. Anyway, into the melee zone, and it's pretty chill so far. Looks like 16 miles an hour. My average wattage for the last 30 seconds is like 82, and it's a little bit of lethargy. People don't want to hit it hard. I think it's been challenging enough and tactical enough, and without a lot of strongmen or the supers to come to the front and drive it hard, there's definitely a different mentality here. No one really wants to put themselves out there because they know they can be attacked and swarmed at any point. And for those who are out racing, this is a good lesson to learn and a good thing to practice when there's no skin in the game here. Looking rearward there, everyone's nice and ordered, and I like how, there's a rider behind me with no one next to them, and there's a correction where the folks behind, it's handlebar to handlebar. Here we go, a lot of overlap and everything here. This is what happens in a race situation. This is where maybe some of the practicum breaks down, but at higher speeds, it just sets off my spider senses, not knowing like what could happen. There are always riders that are a little bit sketch or aren't mindful, and they're not really aware that someone's like on their left or on their right, and they have to move into you, and you can go down. Like right in front of me here, that wheel could be taken out by the rider. If he rode to the right a little bit. Everyone's kind of good here for the most part, but you just never know. The pace is starting to hot up a little bit. My 30-second wattage has crept up to like in the high 180s, up to 190 for a minute there as we crest the top. And it looks like, I think that's like Felix out front just driving it hard. And with the wind off of our left shoulder, pretty much everyone is guttered. I can see it looks like maybe the rider in the red, Dean, maybe giving some shelter to some people, which is good. Oh, and there's a little bit of a split. That was a little bit of a hard punch up that, especially with the wind. But it is closed up nicely there by the Rio rider. Looking forward again, and everybody is still pretty much in the wind. And we can see the rider up front not really giving a lot of shelter. as we are pretty much guttered and everyone pretty much has to own it. And you can see the natural slight echelon, everyone trying to go from the left to the right to get some shelter. And at some point, you're just guttered. And like I am guttered, and I see the gap starting to open up here. I am not that happy trying to close this one down as the wattage still around 200 for 30 seconds, which is right now currently above my FTP, sadly enough to say. And my heart rate is already in the mid 170s. So at this point, I am on the rivet. Rearward here, looks like the group is all in check. We see Mr. Kennedy back there, way back there. He had not charged his DI2 and is stuck in a very small gear. And it is impressive to see that he is able to maintain contact with this group, just a testimony to his versatility and strength. A little bit of a punch there, and the group is starting to separate as I am strained to my limit, despite the fact that my heart rate has gone down from 175 to 172, now 173, and the splits are beginning to happen. And you can see now that there is a little bit of awareness there where shelter is being given to those who are fortunate enough to be there. I was sheltering a few people, and now there is the attack, the bridge by a rider there, keeping close to the gutter, not looking to bring anybody with him to maybe solidify the selection in the big group here. And here we go. People pushing again, another jump, not looking to work with the people behind, but to go it on his own. And this is a reasonable tactic if that's what you want to do. I'm back here giving Greg a tiny bit of shelter, and the little group is just pushing on, working hard here as I sag back, trying to get back to the line. And there is Mr. Kennedy stuck in that gear. Very impressive that he is able to maintain that, as he was able to get some good shelter. And there he goes to make the bridge. There is room on his right for a tiny bit of shelter, but with that acceleration and given the makeup of our group and how hard we've been working, no one is going to be able to bring that back or stay on his wheel. And it looks like there is a solid selection there with reasonably strong people back here in arrears. Heart rate now 174, and I am working hard even though the wattage is not that high. I am somewhat disappointed once again in my fitness this year, barely hanging on here, but it looks like no one in the front group wants to work that hard, and we are able to bring them back. Kudos to the people in this little group here where we are sheltering each other, and we are able to, it looks like, make the catch, which is most impressive. There's a little grade coming up here, and I know a lot of people like to slow down or get shelter because they do not want to be caught on the front on this little grade. This is where a lot of attacks occur, and if you're on the front, you are burning extra wattage, pulling along strongmen. And there's a good bridge there. The young lady in red rocketing up the front, not bringing anybody with her either. That is a wonderful acceleration, and it looks like the front group is getting bigger. And there's the flag there, the American flag, and you can see where the wind is blowing there, just throwing that flag to the wild there. It looks like there must have been a little bit of, I don't want to say confusion, but lethargy up front, no one wanting to pull the others. Lack of cooperation allows the rest of us to come back into the fold, amazingly enough. This was impressive. Normally, this does not happen. But when you can't get organized, this is the result. And I am happy to be back in the fold, although I'm really looking to recover here. My heart rate's been in the 170s for the last, I don't know how many minutes here, probably since the beginning, 5 minutes. Way above my, let's say, zone 2, 3, 4, if you're going by heart rate. Although my power looks kind of pathetic at this point at 130, but I am trying to recover. Pushing really hard, the group has once again perhaps realized that they had allowed the rest of the people to close up, and maybe they are trying to once again put some distance in between us. Greg looking strong there in the black, able to close up there as some of the riders up front are starting to lose their position or perhaps reposition themselves to get some shelter for the final sprint. Looks like there's a little wave by Greg to wave people in front of him. Let the strong men come through so he can get shelter. And there's definitely shelter on the right-hand side as riders slot back, and perhaps a little too far. Maybe people were looking a little too hard. And there's the big acceleration here. And I just do not have it to go for this one. This is the final little push to the top of the hill. This is the point where I wish I had Scott's camera or someone's camera to be able to see what is actually going on up there. But it looks like I'm not going to be able to be there, or not going to be able to close up here. Wattage looks reasonable. Heart rate looks reasonable, but I am tired. And there we go. A nice little push by my little group. They have recovered, but I am not able to snag the rear of that. And at this point, game over for me. No mas. Over this little grade here, it looks like there's a little bit of extra before the real final push. I was confused there. Perhaps it was wishful thinking that was the final push. And now I am in no man's land, pushing 70 watts. And I'm good with that, knowing that I am not going to catch up and I just need to recover. And pretty much a good time was had by all on this one. You know, you can see the difference in tactics when there are people that are really willing to like drill it out there. People like Byron or JC or Ben Nelson, those that are now out, you know, in the big leagues now playing with the TTH group. They would string things out and it would be just a string fest here, and it would just be a battle of who can hang on, just holding on. And now it looks like people are relearning tactics. Not much to look at here, so we're going to just like fast forward through a lot of this, come up to the front. I'm still in no man's land recovering. Looks like there goes a rider. Hey, I think that's Marcel. He also was stuck in either two gears. He had the little cassette cog, a 10 or an 11, and his front derailleur was working, so he could go between, you know, little ring and big ring, but that's all he had. And he comes through for a nice catch there. That was good. That was a good one. Nothing really happened there. Dangerous. You know, there were some recatches there. People are learning tactics. Good times. And until next time, party on.